Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to make a mealworm tower. To make a mealworm tower you only need a drawer tower, a soldering iron, a marker, some mesh and some glue. The first thing you've got to do is take your top drawer, turn it upside down and then take your mesh. For mesh I'm using a sieve that I no longer needed, but it's best to use something along the lines of window screen mesh, and sometime in future I'm going to probably replace this with more mesh. Draw an outline just slightly smaller than the piece of mesh you have. Make sure to leave a lip because you're going to need to glue this on later on. It doesn't matter what type of marker you use because this is the outside of the box, the insects are not actually going to be in contact with the ink. Once you're happy with your outline, you can move on to the next step. The drawer tower I'm using has got some plastic crosses on it to help support the weight of the drawers. These are going to get in the way of the mesh hole that I'm hoping to make, so I have to cut away some of those and make sure that it's much larger than the mesh area that I'm going to have. So put down your piece of mesh and make sure to cut away those pieces. You can leave the edge pieces if you want for extra support. To cut away the pieces I don't need, I'm going to be using a soldering iron. So I made sure the soldering iron got hot enough, and then I just gently place it against the plastic so that it'll melt through itself. Make sure not to try force the soldering iron through the plastic, because you're going to have it slip and it could possibly hurt you or burn something nearby. For the parts in this video where I'm using the soldering iron, I've sped up the speed by 2 just to cut down on time and make sure I'm not dragging the video on with you just watching me melt things. For the box, make sure to melt from the outside in. You don't want to try and do it from the inside because you're just going to have it against a flat surface and you're going to burn the surface underneath the box. When melting it, make sure if you're unsure of the size that you need, always go smaller than necessary because you can always take more off, you can't put it back on. Ideally, I'm going to upgrade in the future and put an entire screen mesh base on this because currently if they lay eggs anywhere that isn't the middle, the worms are just going to hatch and have to fall down through the mesh. But ideally I'd like for them to just lay the eggs straight on the mesh so the worms can fall through, or the eggs themselves can fall through to the next drawer. I'd advise when melting plastic to open up a window or door nearby to the outside just to prevent a build-up of fumes and smoke. And when you are just about done, make sure that you've got enough of a lip for your glue and make sure that you're happy with the shape of it. You can always take a little bit more off if you think you need it. When securing your mesh, make sure to put it on the outside. In this case, I only had wood glue available, so I had to put a good bit on. I had to put some on, let it secure, and then put more on in a little while. The best thing you can use is a hot glue gun, but I had run out of hot glue. Super glue would probably work fairly well as well, and because again it's on the outside of the box, the bugs themselves are not going to be going near them, so it's completely okay. Make sure your mesh is in full contact with the glue, and for some glues you may need to hold the mesh in place for a little while just until it starts to harden. When your glue is fully set, you can put that drawer at the top of the tower. It's going into the top because the darkling beetles are going to go in here, and when they lay the eggs it'll fall in through to the next level, and that's where your baby mealworms can grow up. Put in a substrate of porridge oats. This will act as a food, but also as a place for them to burrow down to lay their eggs underneath. Make sure to provide enough oats that they'll feel secure, but not enough that they'll be able to climb out the top of the box. You don't want any loose beetles running around your house. When you have the porridge oats in, you can add your beetles. I have this many beetles just from my setup beforehand, but I'm hoping to add a good few more now that I've got the space. To encourage them to lay eggs in the middle where my sieve mesh is, I'm just going to add in some toilet roll holders that have been cut up into little house shapes so that they're more secure there, and hopefully that's where they'll burrow down and lay their eggs. Later I'll add in some fruit and veg for them on either side of the houses, and maybe some water crystals just to make sure they get enough moisture. When you're done with the top drawer you can move on to the next one. Some of the dusty porridge has fallen through, but that's completely okay because the baby worms will eat that. I'm putting in the substrate that my adult beetles were on because I just want to make sure that I save any baby worms or eggs that were left over from beforehand. When I look at the tub I can actually see there are some eggs in the corners, so afterwards I'm going to try my best to remove those and put them into the next drawer. The substrate in here is actually the dust that the worms originally came in when I bought them. I'm using this because the baby worms, when they're big enough, I can just put a sieve through there, catch the bigger ones and move them into the next drawer. The third drawer is going to contain all of your adult mealworms. I have them in their oats already, so I'm just going to pour the entire lot into this drawer exactly as they were. Make sure to keep an eye out for any dead ones or any of the pupae that you're going to be putting into the last drawer. Just like with the beetles, the oats will act as both a substrate and a food source, but I'm going to be adding in some fruits and vegetables in a while to make sure they have enough water. The final drawer is where I'm going to be keeping all of the pupae before they turn into beetles. For here, once again, I'm going to be using a substrate of porridge oats, and I'm going to be just leaving the pupae onto this. I'd say every 2 or 3 days, just check into your mealworm box that has the adult mealworms, just to make sure that there's no pupae in there, because the worms will cannibalize and eat the pupae because they can't really run away or defend themselves. The pupae don't require any sort of food or water source, so I'm just going to put them in as they are and check every couple of days to make sure no beetles have arrived. If any beetles emerge, I'll put them into the top drawer. They can lay eggs, which will go to the second drawer, which will grow into worms, go in the third drawer, which will turn into pupae, which go into the fourth drawer, in a nice little cycle that will continue to keep itself going. It can take a little while for a colony to build up, but once you have it going, you've got your own source of mealworms that you know where they've come from and you know what they've been fed their entire lives. So it's a brilliant thing to have. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like or comment below if you have any questions and I'll do my absolute best to help. Thank you very much for watching.